What's good, everybody? It's your boy Zeta here, aka Jared from Subway, and I am here to drop What If Deku Had Kid Flash's Powers, the full series, aka the movie. Now, why do I say full series? Well, that's because this series has already actually been done on the channel. All I did was take all of the parts and compile them into one. With that said, please do be advised that this is one of my earlier on series, so the things that I might say on here are going to be like more unfiltered than any of my usual videos, and a lot of the parts on this video are going to be pretty funny because I was watching it back and it was just hilarious, especially during the Stain arc. It gets wild, but I'm not going to spoil it. That being said though, guys, today's like goal is going to be, let's go for 2,000 likes. All right, let's go for 2,000 likes in this video. So if you do enjoy it, make sure you smash that like button. And with that said, this video is actually going to be a sponsored one. So with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and get started into What If Deku Had Kid Flash's Powers.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
Okay, so to start things off with this amazing series, in this version, Inko's hair is actually going to be ginger. She's going to be a ginger head. And, you know, Deku's also going to have ginger hair, just like Kid Flash. So, that being said, that's the color of his hair when he's born. Since I don't really want to make it, like, have some weird scenario where Hisashi's like, hold on now. What's going on here? I got black hair, you got green hair. What is this? No, I don't want none of that to happen. So that being said, you know, Deku's hair is going to be ginger and his mom's is going to be ginger too. So yeah. Okay, guys. So in this version of events, when Deku's growing up, he's actually kind of made fun of for his hair, you know, by all of the other kids except for Katsky. I mean, she doesn't ever make fun of Deku's hair. She actually kind of likes it. And yeah, that being said, guys, I'm pretty sure you guys all know this, but Bakugo is going to be gender bended and name is going to be Katsky. So that being said, we're just going to be referring to him or her in this series as Katsky. So yeah, just make sure that you guys are aware, you know, Bakugo is going to be gender bended and pretty much look like his mom. So yeah, that being said, let's go. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip over. So everything essentially goes by normal. I mean, Deku's best friends with Katsky, and he still hangs out with those two little, you know, kids that they hang out with. So that being said, you know, everything's kind of normal, I guess you could say, for a 4-year-old. Until one day, Deku was actually in his PE class, you know, doing a little bit of a race with all the other kids, as out of nowhere, some lightning streaks just go off in Deku's eyes as the whistle gets blown, as Deku's perception of time slows down, as Deku blitzes off and he actually can't stop, so he ends up running into the gym equipment closet, getting pretty badly hurt. And after this, Deku's actually rushed off to the quirk doctor and the normal doctor. Once he arrives, Deku actually says that he actually feels just fine for some reason, as Inko says, what? Didn't you just say that you felt your ankle was sprained or something like that? As Deku says, I mean, yeah, but I feel good now. As she would say, what the heck? And she would say, we definitely got to get that quirk of yours tested out. Maybe you have regeneration. As Deku says, that'd be awesome. As, you know, they would arrive to the quirk doctor, as, you know, they're then told that Deku is actually going to be having a quirk called the Speed Force. It's classified as a speed-based quirk, and they ended up naming it the Speed Force because it's kind of weird. It doesn't work like any of the other... Sorry, guys. It doesn't work like any of the other, you know, normal speed-based quirks. It's kind of weird. Whenever he uses it, he gets lightning, and you just see, like, lightning streaks. Obviously, Deku's not exactly as fast as the Flash, or Kid Flash at this point. He's just as fast as, I guess you could say, he's half as fast as Barry Allen in like that show. So he's about that fast. So that being said, you know, nothing too crazy, but it's definitely pretty fast. So with that being said, Deku would proceed to just like be tested out a little bit, as Deku's then told that his quirk is, you know, it is what it is, and his only drawback is essentially that, you know, he's gonna have an immense appetite and that he's gonna be having to consume a lot of calories to keep up with his body, since he's going to have a really fast metabolism and everything about him is going to be pretty fast. Except for one thing, if you all know what I'm talking about. That being said, guys, Deku does have all of his things being pretty fast. I mean, his regeneration, his speed, his perception of time, his, all that, basic stuff. We all know this stuff. Come on now. Everybody knows how the Speed Force works. So, with that being said, you guys might be wondering, what the hell? How did he get the Speed Force? Don't you have to be like chemicals, dark matter, da 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 da? Well, just chalk it up to plot. It's plot. Honestly, guys, I was thinking of maybe doing like he was at a lab and then like chemicals spilled and but then I was just like, yeah, how about no? And then I was just like, this is much easier. So with that being said, Deku quite literally has the Speed Force. They classify it as a quirk, but it's not really a quirk. It's kind of just a Speed Force. So with that being said, Deku would actually grow up, trying to get a little bit of a handle on his quirk, and as soon as this happens, and as soon as he comes back to school, he actually tells everybody about what's going on. I mean, and everybody's just shocked. Deku has super speed. He's incredible. His quirk may be even better than Katsky's. As Deku and Katsky look at each other, as Deku says that, nah, there's no way. I mean, she has an amazing quirk too. Plus, I'm pretty sure she would beat me if we ever fought. She would say, huh, I bet I would. As Deku would say, would you like to train together? She would say, you know what, that actually sounds kind of nice. As Deku and Katsky would actually grow up being kind of popular. They'd be known as the dynamic duo of the school, and Deku and Katsky would actually grow up being quite popular. After this, nobody would really mess with Deku, and he would be pretty damn cool. He would spend the next couple of years training with Katsky, so she would actually be pretty strong herself. Her explosions would be like 2 times more stronger than Bakugo's in the original, and she'd be pretty fit, as well as Deku. Deku would have that Bakugo body type, or no, I guess you could say he would have Kid Flash's body type. He would essentially be built like him. In terms of how tall is he, let's look that up. Let me look up Kid Flash's height to give him that exact height. Okay, so in this version, Deku's actually going to be 5'7" by the time that he is 15. Nothing too crazy. I kind of thought that maybe he'd be a little taller, but it's cool. He's no. He's 5'8" at this point. Yeah, he's 5'8" at this point. Come on now, can't do Deku like that. And he's pretty damn tall for his age. Let me look up how tall Deku is actually. I'd like to see how tall he is. 5'5". Yeah, he's actually not that short as I thought. So yeah, Deku's actually gonna be 5'8" in the series. And yeah, that being said, Deku would, spend the next couple of years trying to get a handle on his quirk. Now, at this point, Deku would have actually, gotten a little bit in touch with the Speed Force. At this point, Deku would be about 15 years old, and he'd be as fast as the Flash in the little CW show. So he's pretty damn fast, and faster than All Might, that's for sure. As well as having, a couple extra abilities. One of them being that he actually found out that if he runs around in a vortex, he can actually create a little bit of a tornado. As Deku would have actually thought that that's awesome. But other than that, Deku just has pretty basic abilities. He's just kind of focused on his super speed, physical training, and, what also comes with the speed is a pretty dope body. So Deku is actually pretty fit. So with that being said, and also training, Deku is pretty fit. He's more along the lean side since, Deku is a speedster and, he's not exactly going to be bulky. So that being said, Deku is pretty built. He's exactly built like the Flash in the thumbnail. And with that being said, that's essentially how that goes. We're going to go ahead and skip over to the day of the sludge villain, as things would essentially go to canon. Oh wait, no, not really, because the teacher, everything would go to canon up until the teacher, Teacher walks in and says, I know you all want to become heroes. As everybody would just be like, yeah, we all want to become heroes. We're going to be great. As, Deku would essentially, be in a bag just talking with Katsky, as the teacher is like, oh, Katsky and Deku, you both want to go to UA, I see. As Deku would say, yeah, we want to go to UA. We want to see what we can do over there. As, excuse me again, as Katsky and Deku would say, yeah, I mean, come on now, we're going to be amazing heroes one day. And we're going to be the top, I'm going to be the #1 hero. One of us is. As Katsky would say, hey, don't be so sure that you're gonna be the number one. I might just run in there and take that spot for myself. As Deku and Katsky would actually look at each other as they then smile and start laughing. And this is when class would essentially go by as a normal day. By the end of it, she would actually ask Deku if he wants to go train with her a little bit. As Deku would say that, nah, he actually has to get home today. His mom said that she's cooking up something pretty special, so Deku doesn't want to miss it. She would understand and say that it's cool. As she would say that she's going to go off to train. As she would tell him that, if he wants, he can maybe catch her later. As Deku would say, sure thing. As he would say, maybe you'll see me around. And she would say, I bet I will. As Deku would then proceed to walk home, just chilling, taking a different path, trying to get there quick. As Deku could just blitz over there and nobody could tell, but, he wants to take a pretty good walk today. It's a pretty nice day. As Deku would take a different path, as out of nowhere, some green sludge would just appear out of nowhere, as Deku was just like, what the hell is this? As that thing would just be lunging at him, but Deku would just be looking at it in slow motion as he pokes at it, and he's like, the hell is this? As the sludge villain is just there like, I'm in your body, kid. As Deku's just, walking around it. As he then, goes back to where he was, and he's like, huh? As the sludge villain would jump at Deku, as Deku would move to the side, as the sludge villain goes into the wall. As Deku would then say, hey, it's not exactly the nicest thing in the world to try to take a kid's body, As the sludge villain would then say, the hell? Give me your body, kid. I don't have the time. I didn't know that freak was in town. As Deku would say, freak? What freak? As he would say, hurry up. Give me your damn body. As the sludge villain would then rush at Deku, but Deku would just, run around it. As he would then say, people like you are pretty annoying, so I'm going to put you down. As Deku would proceed to run around the sludge villain, creating a small tornado. As he's not going that fast, trying not to cause a big tornado to, create a scene. As Deku would, have the sludge villain fly everywhere. It would spread everywhere. This is when All Might would run around the corner and see a sort of, red light, just a red streak of an orange and reddish streak flying around. As Deku would say, the hell? All Might would say, the hell? As Deku would then say, oh my god, All Might, it's you. As the sludge villain would then wrap around Deku's leg. As Deku would then say, ew. As he would then run off. As the sludge villain would then be like, ugh. As it would then just be like, oh, I can't get away anymore. It would just accept its fate. And Deku would just be fanboying as he's helping All Might gather the sludge villain. This is when All Might would then say, kid, what's your quirk? As Deku would say, oh, my quirk, it's a speed-based quirk. It's called the Speed Force. As All Might would say, Speed Force, huh? Sounds interesting. As Deku would say, yeah, pretty cool. As All Might would say, so how fast are you, kid? As Deku would look at All Might and nudge him on the shoulder as he then says, pretty sure I could outrun you. As All Might would then say, you're pretty cocky there, aren't you, kid? As Deku would say, I'm not joking. I could probably beat you in a race. As All Might would then say, how about this, kid? We'll race from here to the beach. As Deku would then say, huh, you're on, All Might? As All Might would then be like, oh, wait, the time limit. As Deku and All Might would then get into their stances to run off. As in that second, All Might would deform and debuff. As Deku then looks at him and stops before he can even run off, falling. As he then says, the hell? What the hell? You're an imposter. What are you doing here? Where's All Might? As All Might would say, kid, trust me. It's coughing out some blood as he then says, it's me, trust me. As Deku would say, I don't know about this one, man. As All Might would then say, explain everything, and Deku would then understand. As All Might would then say, so kid, you said you're faster than me? As Deku would say, pretty sure. I don't know if we've seen your top speed yet, but if what you've shown is your top speed, I'm pretty sure I could beat you. As All Might would then say, interesting. So, this is when All Might would then offer Deku one for all, explaining everything. As Deku would say, as much as I would love to have that quirk, All Might, I don't really think I need it. I already have a pretty amazing quirk, but if you're looking for a successor, I think I may know of somebody who can be a pretty amazing successor for you. As All Might would say, and who's that? As Deku would say, well, she's pretty amazing. I've trained with her all my life, and she's pretty damn powerful, so maybe you could train her up. As he would say, huh, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. As All Might would then say, how about this, kid? You give me your number, and I'll meet you at Dagoma Beach tomorrow. As Deku would say, really? As All Might would say, you bet, kid. As Deku would then say, wow, thanks, All Might. as Deku would then grab All Might's number and then rush home, right on time before Inko could even say anything. As he would say, "Hey mom, how's your day?" And she would say, "Pretty good, sweetie. I mean, the food's ready." As Deku and Inko would proceed to eat. As he would then say, "Hey mom, I gotta go. Katsky told me to meet her up at, the usual spot." As she would say, "You and her, always together." As she would then say, "Why don't you guys just start dating already? I mean, you guys have had a pretty amazing relationship ever since you guys were kids." As Deku would then blush and say, "Mom, I don't know about that." As he would say, "She's a pretty cool friend and I don't want to mess that up." She would say, "I get it." As Deku would then look at her and say, "Well, I gotta go, mom." As he would then blitz off the door, she would say, "Don't use your," as Deku would have just been off, as she would say, "Quirk." She would say, "Well, can't really stop the youngin." As, Deku would blitz over to Katsky, as she would say, "Hey, I knew you'd stop by." As Deku would say, "Yeah, and I got some pretty amazing news. Guess what? I met All Might." And she would say, "What? All Might? You have to be joking. I mean, how?" As Deku would then say, "Well, I was walking home from school and a villain attacked me, so I had to stop it." As she would say, "Well, did the right choice." As Deku would say, "Yeah, and by chance I ended up meeting All Might. He said he wants to meet you tomorrow." As she would say, "Really?" As Deku would say, "Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty cool to meet him." As she would say, "Wow, that's amazing." As Deku would say, "Yeah, so what do you think?" She would say, "Definitely." As she would then ask, "So you hungry?" As Deku would look at her and say, "Totally." As he would say, "I'm always hungry. Come on now. I have this insane, metabolism." As she would say, "True that." As she would say, "You want to come over to my place and eat?" As he would say, "Is your mom cooking?" As she would say, "Of course." As Deku would say, "I'm in." So they would go to Katsuki's house. They would then have a little bit of a dinner there. As Deku would then just be having a good time talking to Katsuki's mom. As they would all just be having a pretty damn good night, talking to the dad. As they would then go off to the room. This is when Deku and Katsky would proceed to just lay down on the bed as they proceed to just start playing video games. This is when Deku would proceed to body her in every game, since he has a pretty damn good perception of time. So in terms of Call of Duty or like these weird games, Deku is pretty damn skilled. He can see things coming from a mile away, so he never really does lose. If this hero thing doesn't work out, he could probably become a pro gamer. So that being said, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and skip to the very next day. Very next day arrives, and this is when Deku introduces Katsuki to All Might. As All Might would then explain One for All to her, she would say, "Wow, that's incredible. I never knew that quirks could be passed down." As All Might would say, "Yeah, but before that, I just want to see if you're ready. I'm gonna need you to clean the beach." As Deku would then say, "Oh, clean the beach? That's no problem." As Deku would blitz around and begin to clean it, and it would be clean in about 10 seconds. All Might would then say, "What the? No wait, not 10 seconds. Let's say 30 seconds. It took about a couple months, so let's say 30 seconds. Deku wasn't exactly the strongest, so 30 seconds. Yeah, 30 seconds. Deku would blitz around and the beach would be cleaned in no time. This one All Might would then say, "Well, I guess that's over with." As All Might would then, be like, "That was for her." As Deku would say, "I can just dirty it up again if you want." As All Might would say, No, I guess I could just start teaching her now." As, All Might would then look at her and say, "How about this? We have a little bit of a sparring session, and if you win, or if you even land one hit on me, then I'll give you the quirk now. If not, I'm going to have to train you rigorously before then." As they would fight, and Katsuki would actually be on the losing side most of it, but she would then land a pretty good land on hit on All Might. As it would surprise him pretty much, since she would have used a very unorthodox movement, something kind of like Gran Torino. As All Might would then remember him and be like, "Scary." As All Might would then look at her and say, "Well, I did promise it." As he would then say, "Eat this." She would then proceed to eat this hair, being like, "What the hell? What do you mean eat this? Why would I eat that?" As he would explain it to her, and she would be like, "Oh, okay." As All Might would then look at her and, look at Deku, as they would all just kind of like chuckle to each other. As Deku would proceed to say, "So, All Might, what about that race? I think you think you might win, so how about we put that to the test?" As All Might would then say, "You're on, young Midoriya." As they would then get into their positions. They're going to race from here to the end of the beach. As in 1, 2, 3, go! And by the time that happened, Deku was already at the finish line. As it took All Might about 10 more. All Might's not that slow. But taking All Might about 2 extra seconds to get there. As All Might would then say, what the? As Deku would then say, what took you so long, Slowpoke? As All Might would then say, wow, that's impressive. As for the next 10 months, Deku's going to be doing some combat training, some physical, some working out along with Katsky. She would have improved their explosions a lot, considering that One For All is a multiplier, or not a multiplier, but an enhancer, as well as reaching 15%. A little bit of combat training, of course, and toning her muscles out a bit. Deku would have done the same, except he would have actually developed a couple more moves. One of those moves being the vortex that he does with his hands, creating little tornadoes, thinking that, you know what, if he can do that with his, with his feet, then what makes him think that he can't do that with something else? As Deku would then proceed to, hold on guys, my laptop's about to die, so I'm going to save this recording and come back in a bit. Hold on. Alrighty guys, I'm back. Sorry, my laptop was about to die and I was not about to lose that recording. Because it was about, how long was that again? Yeah, let's just say 20 minutes. It was about 20 minutes long. But that being said, I was just barely getting into explaining what Deku had essentially learned over the 10 months. What he had ended up learning was essentially the tornado hands that, Kid Flash is able to do. And he also learned the ability to throw lightning. He also learned about, running in circle and throwing lightning. So, that's definitely going to add on to Deku's arsenal. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and cut over to the final day. At this point, Katsky would have actually learned how to use about 15% of One For All, with Deku actually, being pretty proficient with his speed now at this point. And he would have definitely gotten way more of a speed boost at this point. It had been 10 months of a lot of training. So by this point, Deku was even faster than in the beginning. So, yeah. Also, forgot to mention, along that time, he would have actually met Gran Torino. During that time, Deku would have actually ended up hitting up his old master, trying to tell him if he could do him a favor and train one of these two kids that he knows. As Gran Torino would have actually came over to the beach and trained with them for about 1 week, actually racing Deku and seeing if this kid is really as fast as everybody's saying he is. Deku would have blitzed him and left him in the dust, and Gran Torino would have definitely gotten a little bit of a liking to Deku, because he is a speed-based person and Gran Torino is pretty damn fast. So he would have taught Deku about doing a little bit of unorthodox fighting style, as well as Katsky. So they both would have developed their own weird fighting style. It would have been a little goofy, but it definitely will come in handy. There's some people who just get thrown off guard with that, as well as Deku would have actually developed a sort of cockiness whenever he's fighting. So Deku is going to be a little cocky in this version. But with that being said, now we have the exams. Deku and Katsky would basically be saying their thank yous to All Might after the 10 months, and they would basically walk off to the exams. This time, there would be no Uraraka, and no real Ida interaction either. So, Deku would have actually used his speed to blitz over to Nezu, looking at the test scores, writing them down, and getting a perfect score. He would have never even gotten caught, so that would have definitely worked out very well for Deku. But with that being said, Deku would get a 100% on that. He would also do the same for Katsky, since he's not a dick. So, with that being said, they would both get perfect scores, and now we're going to go ahead and move on to the robot portion. Now, as soon as the robot portion starts, I'm just going to say it, guys. Deku would proceed to quite literally, run around and dismantle the robots. He would literally take them apart. Like, this is no joke. Deku, by the end of it, would have about 700... No. Let's go ahead and give him... Let's give him 420 points, and he could have gotten more, but he did it to be funny, and afterwards he was just like, nice, because that's the perfect amount, the perfect time, and Deku would proceed to get that amount of score, 420. Now this is when Uraraka would actually get stuck. Now this time Deku actually wouldn't be the one that's near it. This time it would actually be Katsky, and she would blitz over there using her strongest explosions to get there as fast as possible, to then grab Uraraka and, get out of there before the 0-pointer could smash them. At this point, she would then lay Uraraka down somewhere. She would then blitz back and see maybe she could do something. But it's at this point that Deku would blitz up over there as he would run up the robot and then zap it, conducting a lot of electricity by like running together and like moving his fingers really fast, as he would then have a little bit of electricity and touch the robot, as the robot would then just have its circuits fried, as it would just fall back, crushing about 3 buildings. As Deku would just start laughing, saying, "Sorry, Katsky, I just wanted to see if I could, maybe help out. Didn't actually want to take it down. I wanted to see what you could do, but it was on accident." As she would say, "I understand." As Deku and Katsky would just proceed to laugh, as Uraraka would have seen that and be like, "What the?" As everybody else would have just seen Deku and Katsky, thinking that, yeah, those two were definitely getting into UA. As they would walk home, Uraraka would thank Katsky and they would go off, as they would both get their scores and be told that they actually ended up making it into UA. But with that being said, they both actually end up celebrating with each of their families, as Deku and Katsky celebrate with Inko, as she's pretty happy, and Hisashi's over there on his business trips. Pretty sure that Hisashi doesn't exist, but he's over there on his little business trips, I guess you could say, as Deku would just be celebrating with his mother Inko. As then we have him celebrating with Bakugo's family, and it's, it's Katsuki's family, as they would have a pretty good day. Now, their family would actually tease Deku and Katsky about dating, and they would both kind of blush, and they would both actually notice that, thinking that, maybe they could. it kind of did seem like something may be able to happen. As, Deku and Katsky would both just, write that off, be like, no, I couldn't, right? As, they're both just like, should we? Thinking to themselves, should I ask him out? As we're going to go ahead and cut on over to the first day of UA. Deku would blitz over to Katsuki's house, as he then says, "You ready?" And she would say, "You already know." As she would hop on Deku's back, and they would run on over there. This is when they would arrive about 30 minutes early, as they would just pick their seats, as Deku would sit in the back with Katsky, as they would both just be talking the entire time. Now, this would lead to something very different happening. After all that jibber-jabbering, after about, 10 minutes, Aizawa would actually wake up being like, "Can you guys shut up back there?" As Deku would just be like, "Oh, sorry." As she would say, "Wait, why am I saying sorry to you? You're just, what are you doing here?" As he would say, "I'm Shota Aizawa. I'm your homeroom teacher. Now be quiet." As Deku would say, "Oh, yeah, sorry." As, they would kind of stay quiet for a little bit. As afterwards, they would proceed to talk again, forgetting all about it. And this is when Uraraka would come in, thank all that extra stuff that she does. As this is when we're going to go ahead and cut on over to when Aizawa essentially tells them all that they need to go meet him outside. This is when Deku and Katsky would go to their fitting rooms. As Kirishima would point out that Deku is pretty damn ripped. Todoroki would notice this too, but not really say anything, thinking that, he's better anyways. So, we're going to go ahead and cut on over to when they're outside. This is when the ball gets thrown to Deku, as he's then told that he needs to throw it as fast as possible. This is when Deku would say, "Really? That's it? I just got to throw this ball?" As Aizawa would say, "Yeah, just stay inside the circle." As Deku would then say, "Alright, that sounds perfect." As Deku would then run into a circle and no. Deku would just cock his hand back and forth, spinning it as fast as possible, as his clothes actually starts catching on fire. This one Deku's like, hot, 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 and he then lets the ball go, getting a score of infinity. As Deku would then take off the suit, as he would rip off the higher portion, and he would just reveal how ripped he is to the rest of the girls, as they would all look at Deku and just kind of be drooling, I guess you could say. As Katsuki would be like, "Damn it, Deku." She would rush over there to him and smack him on the top of the head, telling him to cover himself up. As he would then say, "I'm sorry, but my clothes caught on fire. You know how it is." As she would say, "You're right." As Aizawa would then say, "Kid, go cover yourself up." As for the rest of the tests, Deku would do extremely well. In terms of the race, Ida's feelings would get a little hurt, seeing that there's somebody there who, is faster than him. Being fast is his entire shtick, I guess you could say, because that is his entire thing. It's his little mojo, I guess you could say. It's his reason for being at UA. But if there's somebody else who, has speed and even better than him, what the hell? What is he supposed to do there? As, Deku was just sitting there, smiling, thinking that, this is actually pretty amazing. As, he ends up taking the rest of the tests, and not gonna lie, he does perfect on all of them. He gets the best scores you can get. Katsuki would actually get pretty amazing scores too, and by the end of it, it would be Deku, Katsuki, followed by the original order. That being said, guys, Katsky and Deku would walk home. You know, they'd have a little bit of a talk together as they walk home together. When Deku and Katsky are walking home, he ends up looking at her and says, you want to have a piggyback? As she's like, sure. And she hops on Deku's back as Deku would say, so whose house, mine or yours? And she would say, let's go to mine. She said, Mom said that she wanted you to come over today. Maybe have some dinner with us. As Deku would say, I'm so down. As Deku would proceed to blitz on over there, and they would arrive in about 4 seconds. Let's give it 4 seconds. After this, she would get off and she would be like, okay, you're gonna need to warn me when you do that again. As he would say, yeah, sorry. As you know, they would hop off and her hair would be a total mess. As Deku would say, here. As he would throw a brush to her direction and she would say, thanks. She would fix her hair up a little bit and she would throw it back at Deku. As Deku would grab the brush and slick it in his hair a couple of times. As he would be fine again. As they would walk inside. Now, this one, Katsuki's mom, or Baku mom, would proceed to be like, hey guys, hey Zuko. As Deku would be like, hey. As they'd be like, so are you going to stay for dinner tonight? As Deku would say, you know it. Well, what's for dinner tonight? As she would say, well, today we got pasta. As he would say, yes, my favorite. That's my favorite, guys, by the way. As they would proceed to have a pretty good dinner. As by the middle of it, Katsuki's dad would actually say, so, when are you two lovebirds finally going to tie the knot? I mean, you guys have been together for a couple of years now. I mean, when is it finally going to happen? When am I going to have my grandkids? As Deku would spit out his juice. As they would all just look at him and Deku would just be like, bright red. As Katsuki's just like, you know, dying like over there. She just ran up to her room and Deku was just like, I'm gonna go get her. As they'd be like, yeah, go for it. You guys have fun. As Deku would go into the room and he'd close the door behind her. This is when they would just begin to talk a little bit about things. And she would say, well, I mean, how do you feel about everything? As Deku would say, you want me to be honest? As she would say, yeah. As Deku would say, honestly, Katsuki, I've liked you for a while. Honestly, I think I've liked you ever since I was a kid. I just never really knew how to tell you. Never known if you've felt the same way. So I guess I just held it back a little bit. Now she would say, really? I've felt the same way. As Deku would say, and you waited this long to tell me? And she would say, well, so did you. As Deku and Katsuki would just look at each other. As Deku says, so you really want to try it? What if it goes badly? And she would say, I'm willing to try it if you are. As Deku would look at her with a smile as he would then say, then let's give it a try. As Deku and Katsuki would go in for a kiss and they'd begin to make out. And this is when they would proceed to just, you know, pass out together. As the next day would arrive, as Deku wakes up and he remembers he didn't even make it home. As Deku would just be laying there with all of his clothes on, with Katsuki laying next to him, cuddling him. This is when Deku would be like, crap, we're gonna be late for school. As Deku would say, and I need to text my mom. As Katsuki's mom would have texted Inko and told her that he ended up crashing there. As she would be aware, and Deku would say, my mom, I gotta go. As Katsuki's mom would just be like, hey, I already told her, it's cool. As Deku would say, thank you so much. As he would grab his stuff and tell Katsuki to hurry up. As he would say, we're gonna be late. As she would say, it's fine, you have super speed, we'll get there in an instant. As he would say, oh yeah. As this is when she would hop on Deku's back as they would proceed to just blitz on over there. After this, they would arrive and Deku would just look at her as he would say, well, we made it on time. As he would throw the brush at her again and say, yeah, the only thing that sucks is that we always gotta do our hair afterwards. It always gets so messed up. Now she'd begin to brush it as Deku would say, yeah. As they would then walk inside, and this is when Aizawa would then come up to them and be like, so guys, today we're starting with blah 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 blah. The day would go by like a pretty normal school day, honestly. They could be hanging out with Katsuki and a couple other friends, this including Araraka, you know, Kirishima, Kaminari. As you know, they're all just chilling, honestly. And by the end of the day, it's going by pretty boring until All Might walks in saying, I am here, with his usual stuff, as he then says that today they're going to be having some heroes versus villains combat training. As he would proceed to tell them all about their costumes, as Deku would look at his costume and say, sweet. Now, for this version of events, Deku's actually going to be having the OG Kid Flash costume, the yellow with red one. That one's pretty dope with the lightning bolt. And it was made out of the same material, meaning that it won't catch on fire when Deku runs. So when Deku suits up, it honestly looks like it was made for him. As Deku just gets on his costume and Katsky would actually walk out wearing something way more like Momo, I guess you could say. Something a little more revealing, I guess. As, she would actually have some heat. Her clothes would actually be made so that it can actually heat up, making her sweat more. So it could increase her sweat glands and make her quirk even more useful. So with that being said, everything else is pretty much goes to canon. And this is when Alma would announce the teams. This time, it would actually be Deku and Katsky. Now, as soon as the thing starts, Deku and Katsky would be told that they're going to be fighting against Todoroki and Ida. As this happens, Deku would look at Katsky and say, so what's the plan? As she would say, we're going to go in there guns blazing. As Deku would say, okay, I don't see why not. As Deku would say, how about I take Icy Hot and you take that fast guy over there? He says, you should be able to handle him. I'm pretty sure he's slower than me and, you can kind of keep up with me when I'm not trying that much. She says, well, yeah, it's just you're like light speed, as Deku would say. Yeah, I guess. As Deku would say, so do you want to end this quickly or do you want to actually have us, take it easy? And she would say, you know what, let's take it easy. As they would enter the building, and as soon as they get to the second floor, it would be freezing. Katsky would not be able to use her quirk, and she'd be like, hey, Deku, it's pretty hot in here. Can you heat up the room a little bit? As Deku would say, I got it. As Deku would run around the room, creating a sort of like vortex, I guess you could say. As the vortex will then proceed to heat up the room. I think that's how it works. Yeah. The vortex would heat up the room. Don't question me. Just physics. Yeah, physics. So, that being said, guys, Deku heats up the room a little bit, and she says, all right, it's time to stop playing these games. And she would say, full cowling, 15%. Activating her full cowling, as Deku says, well, I guess I should activate 15% as well. As Deku blitzes inside, as he then sees that Todoroki has ice all over the floor. As Deku would slip and fall and hit his head, as he then gets out of his speed. As Deku then looks at Todoroki, who then smiles and says, give up or I'll freeze you. As Deku would say, I don't think so. As Deku would run so fast that the ice just means nothing. He would then run around Todoroki so fast that all the oxygen inside there would go away. As Todoroki then gets asphyxiated and passes out. This is when Katsky would blitz in there and proceed to knock out Ida as fast as possible. As Deku would then, go over to the bomb and touch it as he says, we won. As, All Might would say, hero team wins. As Todoroki and Ida would be a little salty. Todoroki more than Ida because, Ida didn't really get to do what he did in canon, so he's not the hero. And this time, instead, the hero is Deku. I guess. Or no, it's actually Todoroki, even though he lost because he set up the ice because he knew what the quirks was. So, that being said, that's essentially how that situation goes. After this, Deku and Katsky actually end up going to Inko's house for dinner, and they actually end up passing out over there. It's at this point that, Katsuki's mom is realizing what's going on, and she's like, ooh, I'm gonna have grandchildren soon. As, we got Deku and Katsky just over there sneezing. They're like, somebody must be talking about us. As, they're damn right. As, the very next day arrives. And this is when we're going to go ahead and cut on over to the USJ. So, all the kids would pretty much be on the bus. And everything would essentially go to canon. With the exception of Deku just being with Katsky the entire time. So, that being said, now we're going to go over and cut on over to where, the Hero 13 is over there giving her a pretty annoying speech. And she's like, quirks can be dangerous. So, you guys got to use them with, respect. You guys got to use them wisely. As Deku would just be in the back, kind of ignoring her, just listening to this and listening to this hero just babble on and on as he's like, when is this gonna end? As out of nowhere, Kurogiri would teleport in front of them as he would say, nice of you guys to invite us. As he would then say, oh wait, we weren't invited. As Deku would then spin his arms quickly, as he then says, nice, hero training, and we're fighting against, fake villains, as he would create vortexes that grab Kurogiri and start sucking him in. As this is happening, Aizawa would say, these aren't fake heroes, they're real. As Katsky would jump in with an explosion at Kurogiri's metal piece, holding him down like cannon. This is when Deku would realize that these are real villains, as Deku would look at Aizawa and say, well, teach, I guess I can't hold back this hero instinct that as Aizawa would say, kid, stop! And this is when Deku would just blitz off and you would proceed to go through the water. Go through every section that he can as he just goes in and starts massacring villains. We're talking Madara versus the Fourth Shinobi Alliance, or the third, I'm not really sure. But yeah, it's a massacre. You know, it's over before anybody can know. Deku like grabs them and puts their fingers in their noses, and you know, has them like hug each other, and then it like hits them so that they're like in funny positions when they get knocked out. He also like captures some in some pretty strong, you know, tape that he pretty much has on hand. And yeah, that's pretty much how that goes. After that, he then stands in front of the big and bad, and this is when he then says, "So, how's your day?" Shigaraki would say, "Nomu, kill that brat." As Deku would say, "Huh, I guess that you're not feeling very nice today, huh?" Chap lips. As Kurogiri would be like, as he would then say, "Nomu, kill that brat." As the Nomu would then rush at Deku, but Deku would just see it in slow motion as Deku dodges a hit in the way that Spider-Man did against, you know, that against that guy called Flash. Yeah, he did it against Flash, as he would dodge that blow pretty easily. As he then runs up the Nomu and starts beating on him, just hitting him a bunch of times over and over. And this is when he goes back to his normal position, as he then says, "Wow, you're pretty slow," expecting the Nomu to just fall down after that. As the Nomu would then punch Deku away, as Deku was sent flying into a crater. As Deku would cough out some blood and say, "The hell?" As Deku would then be like, "What the hell is this thing's problem? I'm pretty sure I hit it over and over." As Shigaraki would then say, "It has regeneration, you damn bastard." As Deku would then look over there and say, "Regeneration, huh? I guess I'll just have to beat it so bad that it won't be able to regenerate." As Deku would activate his super speed at full capabilities. As Deku would then grab the Nomu and start running around the city with it, as he's just beating it. As he's dragging it across the road, just skinning it alive in a sort of, you know, Sandman versus Spider-Man 3. Why do I keep making Spider-Man references? You all know what I'm talking about, but like basically like its skin just gets like peeled off as Deku just has nothing but like an eyeball and he crushes it in his feet. As Deku then blitzes back saying, "Well, your little reinforcements is kinda gone." As Shigaraki would say, "Yeah, freaking brat." As Deku would rush on over there and knock out Shigaraki before anything else could happen. Then knock Shigaraki out, and this means that Shigaraki is, he's out of the picture. He's essentially gone. All for One finds out about this. All for One ends up finding about this later on, and he's not exactly too happy that the heroes catched his successor. As he sees that, he would then say, "No matter, that child was such a brat anyways. I'll just tell All Might that he, incarcerated his Nana Shimura's grandson, and that should get him enough." As he would then think that maybe he should look for a different successor. So, on the villain side, All for One's going to be looking for a different successor, and you guys are going to have to wait for who that's going to be. That being said, no, it's not going to be a speedster. No, I'm not adding no speedster. So, no, not happening. I'm not making Deku have to face any speedsters because I don't feel like handling all these characters. So, with that being said, he's actually going to get somebody else who might pose a bit of a threat to Deku. But with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and hop on over to the 2-week break. So, after this, we're going to go ahead and have, Deku having his normal 2-week break, as things would pretty much not really change. Deku would proceed to train with, Katsky, as during this 2-week break, Deku and her would proceed to do a little bit of smoochy smooch, as well as do their first round of studying, if you guys know what I mean. As I can't really do too much right now because the feds is watching. I'm just kidding, nobody's watching, but yeah. But anyways, they didn't do too much. That's why I stopped there. They did it occasionally. They don't want a surprise to happen. As they did a little bit of a studying. As then we got the 2-week break. During this time, Deku would have studied with her, done a little bit of combat training, gathered a little bit of more speed, and he would have also developed a brand new move. something that's going to come into play later in the UA Sports Festival. That being said, Katsky would actually get even faster and stronger and gain 20% of full count. Now her explosions were massive. And on top of that, she had the strength of 20% Deku on her side. So she's pretty formidable. If Deku wasn't there, she'd probably be the main character. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and cut on over to the sports festival. With that being said, everything else would go normal. Katsky wouldn't be a dickhead, so none of the other classes would actually be, trying to grab Class 1A by the throat. And Deku would give the speech. The speech would be kind of, pretty good. He'd give a pretty good speech, pretty motivational. And they would then be told about the race. And when they're actually told about the race, Deku, what do you guys want me to do? Come on now, make it interesting. Deku blitzes. He blitzes. It's GG's from there. There's nothing that I could have really said there. So let's go ahead and skip on to the next one. Katsky actually ends up getting second place, and everything else just pretty much falls into place like it would in canon. In terms of the cavalry battle, it would consist of Katsky, Deku, Uraraka, and, y'all ready for this? Tokiyami. This would result in something a little different than it would in canon. The trick that they would use for this is essentially Katsky's at the bottom and Uraraka's going to make everybody else weightless, meaning that they're not going to weigh anything at all. So in terms of that, Deku would just proceed to grab everybody, as it would be, Katsky at the top, actually. Yeah, Katsky at the top, Deku at the bottom, and everybody just being carried by him. They would all just kind of be holding on to each other, and since they're weightless, it's pretty damn easy. So as soon as everything starts and Todoroki tries to go for the 1,000,000-point headband or the 10 million point, Deku just blitz around him. There's no catching him. You would just see a red streak, just a yellow and red streak just blitzing around all over the place, as Todoroki and everybody else is just not sure of what's going on. Deku would go by snatching occasional headbands from the people that don't matter, not from the actual people who are actually going to come into play, by the way. So that being said, that's how the cavalry battle ends up going. And in terms of the battles, Deku is still warned by Shinso. And how does that go? Deku goes in there, and as soon as Shinso says something, Deku, being a dumb fuck, actually ends up answering. He's like, yeah, I guess I'm pretty lucky with this, as he would then be captured. But instead of seeing One For All vestiges, he sees the Speed Force, as the Speed Force would actually knock him out of it. Honestly, guys, you guys may be wondering, why the hell would you make a Deku with the Speed Force if you have no idea what the hell the Speed Force is? And to that I say, you have a point, but do you guys not want this? Exactly. So, Deku would just get awoken by the Speed Force this time, and this is when Deku would proceed to mollywop Shinso without a second thought, speed blitzing, grabbing his leg, and throwing him out of the arena. And after this, we're going to go ahead and cut into a battle against Deku versus Todoroki. Before the battle starts, Todoroki would declare his war upon Deku, as Deku would just smile, thinking that this is going to be pretty fun to crush that cocky bastard. As before everything starts, Todoroki would shoot a giant iceberg at him, as Deku would just phase through it as he runs straight through it. This is when Deku would appear before Todoroki, as he then says, "Boo." This is when Todoroki would then punch at Deku, as he would miss, as Deku would be behind Todoroki, as he then says, "Secret technique, 1,000 years of death," as he would then stab into Todoroki's butt. Because, there is the Naruto manga, so he would, use this as a gag. As he would then stab Todoroki in the butt, sending him flying. And they would have to use the slow motion to see what happened, as they would have to go in slow motion by quite a bit, as Todoroki would have lost because of that. And in the next battle, we have Deku versus Katsky. Now, you guys can all imagine how that would go. Katsky would try to put up a bit of a fight, but in the end, Deku would actually end up winning. She would try to use her howitzer impact, her AP shots, and all of that stuff, but Deku would just be too fast for her to land any of the attacks, and by the end of it, she would have actually ended up tiring herself out. So Deku would simply grab her and push her out of the ring pretty softly, as when she's on the floor, Deku would then extend his hand out as he then says, "That's a pretty good match." She then says, and it was also pretty one-sided too, as Deku would say, same old, I guess, as she would say, "Yeah, I just wish you would have, made it a little more interesting," as Deku would say, "what was I gonna do? I didn't want to hurt you." She would say, I know. as they would all get awarded their little medals, as Deku would just smile, thinking that, he had a pretty fun time racing battling against Katsky, as that battle was actually kind of fun. He had a little bit of fun, messing around with Katsky in the middle of it, doing some normal Kid Flash things, as that's essentially how that situation ends up playing out. So after the sports festival, all of the kids would pretty much arrive back in class. Deku would have woken up in Inko's house, in his house, as his mom would have woken him up saying, "Deku, it's time for school," as Deku would say, "Right," as he actually wakes up 1 minute before school starts. Why is this? Well, because he can do everything in under that time. So he grabs his breakfast and then he tells his mom, "Bye, Mom, gotta go," as his mom would say, "Wait, I gotta talk to you about," and she's like, "The birds and the bees. I guess I'll talk to you when you get back," as Deku would then rush off to school. As today, they're actually going to be told about their sort of internships, as well as their hero names. And what would Deku pick? Well, when he was going up there, he was originally just going to be picking Deku, since that's the nickname that Katsky gave to him. But then people started in the class were like, "What? That's kind of lame. If I was you, I would name myself Flash. A lot of people were calling you that in the sports festival. You were literally just a flash in their eyes. You went by and took everybody out in a flash. So that'd be pretty cool. Maybe you should name yourself that." As Deku would say, "Maybe I should. You know what? I am." As he would grow up and show his name. Name being Kid Flash. Not Flash. He's going to change that once he grows up. But for now, but for now, he's going to be using the name of Kid Flash. But with that being said, let's go ahead and keep going. Katsky would end up using Dynamite. And that being said, let's go ahead and go over who they all ended up picking. So in this version of events, Deku's actually still going to be going with Gran Torino. Not for the same reasons of mastering full cowling or anything like that, but just because of the reason that he has a little bit of a familiarity with Gran Torino, being that he actually trained him for a little bit and taught Deku the importance of unorthodox movements. What if there's somebody who can cancel this quirk or something? That's not gonna be able to happen because he actually has a speed force, but they don't know that though. But yeah, and Katsky would have actually also gone with Gran Torino, being that she has one for all, and Gran Torino kind of wants to whip her into shape. Granted, she already does have 20%. I'm pretty sure that's what I ended up giving her on the last part. Yeah, she has about 20% mastered. So, with that being said, Deku would then pick his heroes as he would go home, and the very next day they're gonna arrive on the train and go off. So, as this is happening, Katsky would actually ask Deku if he wants to go eat with her, as he would say sure. Just like always, as he would go eat with her family, and in a flash, Deku would say his thanks and then go back home. As Inko would say, "Hey, did you already eat already?" As Deku would say, "Yeah, but I can go for seconds. I do need to eat a lot." And she would say, "Yeah, I know." And she would say, "I have your food ready, but I also want to talk about something." As Deku would say, "What's up, Mom?" As she would say, well, you've been getting older, and I think it's time that we started talking about something. And since you're now dating Katsky, I figured I might talk to you about the birds and the bees." As Deku's face would just go white. He would look like he just saw a ghost. As Deku would blitz on out of there, she would say, "But we're gonna talk about this eventually, young man," as she's smashing on Deku's door saying, "If you don't come out here right now, it's gonna be even harder than it has to be." As Deku would just be like, another day, Mom. I'm not ready for this." As Deku would blitz out of there, locking his room and getting out the window, as Deku would go over to Katsky's house, trying to just avoid his mom for the night. He's just not ready for that. He would tell Katsky, and her face would go white as a ghost, as he would decide just to stay over that day. So with that being said, Deku would blitz over to his house just before they can go on the train, grab all of his stuff, and then meet Katsky at the train, kind of dodging his mom. And when he does that, he and her would proceed to do a little bit of, a little bit of making out on the train, while they're on the way. There's no studying because, they're in a public place right now, but that's going to change it a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and have them arrive. This is when Gran Torino would pull his little ketchup prank. As Deku would blitz on over there and say, "No, no," as he would shake him, and Gran Torino would say, "Stop shaking me so hard, kid." As Deku would say, "Oh, right." As Gran Torino would get up and say, "So, you ready for this?" As Gran Torino would jump on the wall and go to attack Deku, as Deku would just see him moving in slow motion, as he would, push him out of the way as his trajectory would mess up and Gran Torino would hit himself pretty hard. As Deku would say, you do remember that you can't hit me. As Gran Torino would say, I wasn't going for you. As Deku would say, oh. Looks like he was going for you, Katsky. As she would say, me? Why me? You usually train Deku. As he would say, well, this time I'm going to be training you. You, Deku, you're just going to be focusing on improving your speed. And on this time, Gran Torino is going to murder the boy. He is literally going to have him running day and night non-stop for the next 4 days. And this is going to result in a Flash, or in a Kid Flash, that's as fast as season. How fast should this kid be? Let's just say that he's at Mach 3. He's Mach 3 levels of speed. Yeah. Let's just say he's Mach 3, right? He's pretty damn fast. So, with that being said, yeah, Deku's at Mach 3 and all that. And, yeah. So, nah, that's a little slow. Let's go to Mach 4. Yeah, he's at Mach 4. So, that being said, Deku definitely gets a little bit of an upgrade. And during the nights when Gran Torino's fast asleep, Deku and Katsky get busy in the alleyway right by the trash cans. They just start studying, they start hitting the books. I haven't gone over some studying yet, and I figured I would go over a little bit of studying in this part. So with that being said, yeah, and Deku does have his, his armor with him. So that being said, Deku is, he's pretty good at the moment. So yeah, I'm gonna have something happen a little later on. It's gonna be a little, it's gonna change things a little bit. So yeah, just keep in mind that they've been studying, and yeah. So all right, let's keep going. So after this is when Deku would proceed to just be told by Gran Torino and Katsky as well that they're gonna be going to Hosu City. So they would arrive at Hosu City, and this would essentially go like you guys would picture it going. Deku would essentially go in there, and when the Nomu comes in and tries to hit the train, Deku has enough time by using his speed to open the hatch, get out of there, close the hatch, and punch the Nomu. And the Nomu just gets sent flying. The Nomu is done for. Like, as soon as that hit connected, Deku done that Nomu goofed, because Deku had enough time to run around and hit him with the Sonic Punch. As he would hit him with the Sonic Punch, taking the Nomu out very quick. And after this, he would then proceed to just run around, taking out the rest of the Nomus. Gran Torino and Katsky would have, never even been aware of this. As, when he's on his way back, he would notice that Ida is right about to fight Stain. As Deku would then grab Ida, get him out of there, as well as the hero native. As Deku would then stand in front of Stain and say, so, how are things? Stain would say, who the hell are you, kid? Are you another one of those fake heroes? As Deku would say, I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a fake hero, but I'm not a real hero at the same time. As Stain would say, then you're gonna die. As Stain would rush at Deku and try to stab him, and Deku would dodge and say, whoa there, buddy, I didn't say I was a fake hero, I just mean I'm a hero in training. Calm down there, buddy. As Stain would literally try to stab at Deku, but, before he can even, cut on Deku, Deku's just dodging everything. There's no chances for Stain to even hit him. As Deku would say, you're going to need to cool down. As Deku would grab Stain using his top speed and throw him in a pool. As Stain would get up and be angered by this. As Deku would just start laughing and, smacking his thigh, being like, that's a knee slapper. As, Stain would just be like, you damn bastard. As Katsky and Gran Torino are just like, where did he go? As Gran Torino would say, look, over there, there's a Nomu. As he would bust out of there, as he would see that it's taken out. And Katsky would go out too. By this point, she has 30% full cowling. Let me write that down in my notes so that, next time I don't mess this up. So, with that being said, Deku would proceed to just toy around with Stain, honestly. I mean, what do you guys expect? It's a normal human with a blood quirk. What the heck is he going to do? Oh, sneeze coming. Much better. Okay, so, that would go as that happened, and Stain would actually, Ida would actually never get hurt, never realize what actually even happened. By the time that Ida came to, he would realize that Stain was captured and turned into the police, so there would really be no problem with it. Oh, wait! The Nomus... Oh, no, yeah, the Nomus the Nomos would still come out. The new successor is fast at work, and he actually ended up having a meeting with Stain. I just had to retcon that real quick because I knew some of y'all were going to get on my ass in the comments saying, wait, but didn't Shigaraki get taken away? And then I was going to be like, maybe? And y'all were going to be like, you fucking dumbass. And I was just going to be like, I'm sorry. But yeah, retcon, different guy did that bullshit, but it wasn't for the same reasons as the childish Shigaraki. It was an alliance. Stain and the Nomus had a certain goal. It was to try to lure out as many fake heroes as possible for Stain to massacre on that night. So yeah, that's my little thing that I'm changing. But with that being said, the entire Hoso incident pretty much goes by pretty damn slowly. By the time that they arrive back from everything, they would then actually have 2 more days, considering that the Hoso incident would have been avoided and nobody would have actually even gotten hurt. The credit would actually go to Gran Torino this time, and Gran Torino would actually be pretty happy that, his pupil, I guess you could say, who's under him at the moment, is, letting him have it, as he would actually just welcome it a little bit. As they would all arrive back, and, when they arrive back, Deku and Katsky would proceed to just, go home, as Deku would actually have the talk of the birds and the bees with his mother. As this time she would say, listen here, kid, you're not about to go away again. She would grab him by the ear and pull him down and say, now you're going to sit here and talk to me about this. Have you been doing, the thing? As Deku would say, Mom, I don't know if I want to talk about this with you. As she would say, well, you're going to talk to me about this, little mister. As Deku and her would proceed to have a pretty awkward conversation. Katsky would just be fine, but at the moment, she just took something, and she's pregnant. She would immediately text Deku that she's pregnant, as Deku would see the message and pass out. He would literally pass out. This is when Deku would be like, no, how am I supposed to become a hero if I'm gonna have a kid? As Deku would just be like, as this is the first time that studying has ever gone wrong, guys.
But before we get into what will happen between Deku and Katsky, I have to tell you all about the sponsor of today's video, Fandom. Now guys, in case you guys haven't heard, Fandom is an awesome anime merch company, which you guys can get to by clicking the link down below in the description. That will take you to their website, which you guys can get onto. And right now, they're currently actually having a pretty big sale, plus the 10% discount code that I'm going to be offering you guys. So it's pretty much a no-brainer. Up on screen, you guys should have been seeing a bunch of their merchandise that they have to offer. They have literally everything ranging from My Hero to Naruto to One Punch Man to Seven Deadly Sins and any mainstream animes that you guys can think of. Pretty sure they even have some Flash merchandise too, in case you guys are interested in that, wink wink. That being said though guys, if you guys do want some dope anime merch, go to their website, click on whatever you guys might want, make sure you select the right sizing, and also use code Zether for 10% off a discount. That being said, let's get right back into what happens with this freaky situation.
Let me know if you're gonna like this. But yeah, Deku would proceed to now have that on his hands. And this one, Katsky would say, what do I do? I mean, my parents have been wanting grandchildren, but your mom's gonna kill us. As Deku would say, yeah, as Deku would just be scared and say, I'm gonna go for a run. We'll talk about this with your parents and mine tomorrow, but I need to breathe. As Deku would proceed to run around. He would keep running and just lose track of everything. This is when Deku would open a ripple through time. He would run so fast that he had managed to go back in time. And this is when he arrives before the Stain incident. This is when Deku would be there as he realizes that it was probably... What the heck? What's going on? As Deku would realize that he must have traveled through time. What the heck? It's the same day that they were told about the internships. As Deku would just be like, okay, what do I do? As he would then remember that one of those protections had a hole in them. As he would then, decide that the best course of action for now would be to probably replace his, double, since he doesn't want to mess anything up right now, to tell his double what the heck's going on. Or, replace the box with some new protection. As he would do that, and then wonder how the hell he's gonna get back. As Deku would remember that he had ran so fast. As Deku would try it again, but nothing. He would keep trying to run at that same speed for about 2 weeks as he could not do it. Until one day, Deku's just pissed off and he finally manages to do it. But he actually ends up shooting a little bit too far. And by a little bit too far, I mean 1 week too far. And by this point, they had already done the rescue training race, and they would have actually already done the final exams arc, and it would have been about 2 weeks that he actually went into the future. When he came back, Katsky would be like, hey, as Deku would say, hey Katsky, she would say, where were you? As Deku would say, oh, I've been feeling sick. As she would say, really? Your mom said you've been missing. As Deku would say, yeah, I was going on a run and I don't know what happened. Everything just went blank from there. She would say, oh, that's understandable. Well, you're gonna have to go talk to Nezu since, we kind of went through the final exams. So Deku would say, really? Oh, crap. As he would then report to Nezu and tell him about what happened. As Nezu would be like, kid, you managed to time travel you moved so fast, you managed to open a hole through time. As Deku would say, yeah. As Nezu would just be astounded, and he would say, listen, you're gonna fight All Might, and if you win, as well as taking a test, and if you win, you're gonna come with the forest training arc. If not, you're gonna have to do the remedial course training as well as the forest training with the other students. As Deku would say he understands, as Nezu would have given him a pretty light pass considering that he just did something that nobody else has ever been able to do. As Aizawa would actually be Nezu would actually be extremely proud of Deku, and Deku would actually go by it, and it would go by pretty easy. Deku would look the answers off Nezu and pass with the 100, as Deku would actually just run out of the arena that All Might was in, as All Might would just sigh and say, figured much. As, now we're going to go ahead and skip on over to the forest training arc. This is where things are going to go a little different. We might have the little revelation of who this little leader is, but I'm going to be saving that for the next part. I'm still going to keep going, but you guys are not going to know who that is until a while. So this is when all of the people are on the bus, and Deku would realize that, there's not too many changes that he can see. As Deku would look around, and this is when he would notice that Ida's not there. As Deku would ask Katsky what happened to Ida, she would say, oh, you don't remember? I mean, Ida died. As Deku would say, oh, as that's what he caused to happen. That was the effect of going back in time. Him not having a kid means Ida died. And why is this happening? Because honestly, because I couldn't just make it so that everything's dandy. So I figured what's the least problem that I could cause for Deku, and that is killing Ida. So yeah, Ida's dead. Is my evil laugh good? Let me know down in the comments. But yeah, guys, so Ida's dead now, and Deku would be a little sad realizing that maybe coming back wasn't the right decision. But then he would remember that that would have happened if Deku wasn't there in the first place. So Deku would just kind of think whether he should go back or just leave things the way they are. As Deku would realize that things aren't that bad except for that changes. Deku would just be wondering to himself, what the heck should he do? As he would just be thinking about everything. It's just what do I do? As there's no time right at the moment. They're on the bus, and they're pretty much on the way to the forest training. It's at this point that Deku is essentially just on the bus with the rest of the students as they get thrown on like cannon. This time though, Deku grabs Katsky and actually races over there, as he would then proceed to explain to her everything that had happened, how before he actually traveled through time, and she would be dumbstruck as Deku would say, yeah, that's what happened, and I ended up shooting a little too far in the future. So he would tell her that Ida died, and she would say, what the heck, we were gonna have a kid? So Deku would say, yeah, and I accidentally went back in time and fixed that. And she would smack him on the head and say, why the hell would you do that? So Deku would say, we were gonna die. She would say, we died in the future? As in your timeline? As Deku would say, no, my mom was gonna as she would say, you idiot, Now look what you did. Ida's dead now. I should be pretty mad at Deku as, they would have a little bit of a problem together. As Deku would say that he's trying to fix it. That he'll fix it. He'll find a way. If there is a way, but he doesn't know if he should go back. What if he changes something and somebody else ends up dying too? Or what if he messes up even worse? As Katsky would understand, and she would realize that from now on, no more messing with time, as Deku would understand what she means, as they would just be talking as the rest of the students would arrive. This is when things would essentially kind of go to canon, except this time Deku doesn't get punched in the balls. This time it's Todoroki. Todoroki gets nut punched and he gets pretty damn mad, but he can't really do anything to a kid. So all the events essentially go to canon. They have a pretty good day eating. They have the little jacuzzi thing. Koda gets saved by Deku. And, the very next day, they start training. Just like I said, Deku would essentially just be doing speed training with an extra thing. But you guys will find that out on the next day. Deku would essentially just be having a little bit of combat training as well as speed training. Just running around trying to increase his endurance when he's using the speed force, I guess you could say. And that's essentially all he does for the rest of the day. We're going to go ahead and skip all the way until the end when Deku's just with Katsky, making some food along with all of his other classmates. As he then notices that, Koda, the little kid, is just going off by himself. Deku would grab himself a bowl and Koda a bowl as well, as he would then go over there, blitzing over there to Koda as the food would then fall and he would be like, as he would then drop the bowls and then rush back to get two bowls before anybody could see. As he would then walk to Koda this time. As Koda would just be sitting there, crying. As Deku would see what's going on with Koda, Deku would approach him as he would say, "Hey, are you okay? I don't mean to bother you, but, I can't exactly just let you be here by yourself." As he would sit down next to Koda and say, "Hey, you hungry?" As Koda would then look at him and say, "What the heck do you know? Get out of here, you hero. What are you even doing here? Why would you follow me?" As Deku would just say, "Well, to be honest with you, kid, I know about what happened. I know about your parents. I actually used to really like your parents growing up. The water hose heroes, they were pretty amazing, and it's pretty sad seeing the way that they had to go, protecting civilians and trying to take down a villain who was just a little too strong." As Koda would sob, as Deku would just look at him and he would say, it's okay, Koda. You're not facing this alone. Okay? I'll help you get better." As Koda would say, "What? You won't do anything. You're just gonna end up like them. All of you are just gonna end up like them. You're all gonna be killing each other. The villains are gonna kill you. You're gonna kill them. It's just a dumb cycle. All of you heroes are the same." As Muscular would come in out of nowhere saying, "Hell yeah, you got that right. The villains are definitely going to be killing the heroes. And I'm going to be starting with this one today." As Koda would look at Muscular, she would be like, "Who are you?" As Muscular would say, "I think I might have known your parents. I had a little bit of a tussle with them. They were actually the ones who ended up giving me this eye." As Muscular would then crack his neck in his fist, as he would then say, "Now then, why don't we get started?" As Koda would then look and terrified at Muscular, as Muscular comes in to punch Koda, Deku would just smile as he then grabs Koda and moves him out of the way. This is when he would take Koda back to camp, as he would then tell Koda that everything's going to be okay. So he would rush back and take down Muscular in a matter of seconds. He would pretty much rush back and punch him with a sonic punch, as Muscular would be flung into a different mountain, as Muscular would just he'd be out cold, to say the least. After this, some other things would be occurring. The new leader of the League of Villains actually wouldn't be present this time. And at this point, it is when Stain is actually, in the forest, causing a little bit of havoc. As for the flames, well, Dabi would still be doing that because, he's really out here. So, then we got the rest of the villains, characters. As, we're going to go ahead and have essentially what had happened on the last part. Now, when the Dabi clone ends up fighting, Aizawa, he turns into mush. And that is by the time that, Deku would have rushed through the forest, just blitzing around, trying to see if he could see anybody. He would see Shoji and Tokiyami, as he would then run around, Tokiyami, and basically hit Tokiyami with a lightning bolt, causing Tokiyami to, have his dark shadow go back and be under control again. And this is when he would basically grab them and ask them if they're okay, as they would say, I don't know, as Deku would take them both back to camp. This is when Deku would find Bakugo and Todoroki, as he would then ask Bakugo if he's cool, as Bakugo would say, Katsuki. Yeah, Katsuki would say that, sorry, I done goofed that part a little bit. As Katsuki would say that, yeah, she's fine, this bastard's giving her a little bit of a problem. Deku would see that right as she was dodging, one of the teeth actually ends up scratching Katsuki. As, oh no, you did not just hit Deku's girl. So Deku would blitz over there and grab Moonfish's teeth, breaking them, grab the face as he would then slam it into the floor as hard as he possibly could. Moonfish's skull would get fractured off of that and he would be taken down instantly. This is when Deku would, blitz around and he would actually find Mustard, as Deku would take him out before Tetsu could, causing that encounter to be pretty quickly. This is when Deku would go over to the Pussycats, to the Wild Pussycats, as he would then help them take out Stain, since it's going to be Stain and Magma that are fighting, not Spinner. He's never actually, yeah, Spinner would be added. Yeah, Spinner, Stain, and Magma, except Spinner wouldn't have the Stain outfit. It'd be a little different. So Deku would go on in there and say, what's the situation? As he would see that one of the Wild Pussycats is actually on the floor, bleeding out, and she's unable to move, as the other one would be in an uphill battle against 3 other people who are incredibly strong. As Deku would say, understood? This is when Deku would proceed to start twisting his arms really fast. He creates mini tornadoes in his hands, blasting all 3 of them away. As Deku would then run in a circle and throw 3 lightning bolts at each of them respectively, knocking them all out. As Deku would blitz on over them, put handcuffs on them and all 3 of them, as he would then drop them and say, you take care of her, I'll go see if anything else is going on. As Deku would blitz back to where he had left Katsuki, as he would then see that she's not there. Deku would then look up with an angry face, as he would then see that Mr. Compress was way too far. As Deku would smile, thinking that this is going to be no problem. Mr. Compress would have actually already thrown the orbs at Dabi, as Dabi would catch the orbs, and Mr. Compress would then get taken out by Deku and retrieve the orbs. This is when Deku would notice that these aren't the right ones. Compress had tricked him. As he would then look towards the direction of Dabi, as Dabi would just smile and wave at Deku, as Deku then blitzes over there, reaching his top speeds, as he then jumps straight through the portal before it can close. This is when Deku would see that there's 2 Dabis. Deku would rush at one of them and elbow him right in the throat, as it would turn into sludge and go away. This is when Dabi would come out of the shadows, clapping and saying, well, if it isn't Izuku Midori, you managed to take down the other boss, didn't you? I thank you for that. It very much did help me out with my endeavors. As he would then chuckle, Deku would say, give me Katsuki back and there won't be any issues. And turn yourselves in or I'll have to do it the hard way. As Katsuki would look at Deku, as she would say, yeah, let me go. I'll kill you all. As Dabi would then hold his hand on her face, as he would then say, now I wouldn't do that if I was you. I could turn you to charcoal if I wanted to. As she would then widen her eyes, as Deku would say, I wouldn't do that if I was you. Dabi would then have a little bit of flame start flaring up, as her face then starts to get a little burned. And this is when Deku in that split second would blitz on over and punch Dabi away. Dabi would hold the spot that Deku had punched, as he would get flung back. And this is when Deku would pop the fuck off. Katsuki's face would have actually gotten a little burned, and she would have actually been holding it, in pain, as Deku would not play any games after this. After that happened, Deku would proceed to essentially blitz and almost critically injure everybody. Now, in case you guys didn't notice, Dabi was the new League of Villains leader. Now, why Dabi? Well, during the search for somebody new, this is when All For One would come across Dabi. The reasoning that he picked him was because he would end up finding out about Endeavor and think that this is a good way to hit at the number 1 and number 2 hero. He can shut down the Hero Society even quicker if he had him, somebody who had direct contact with the number 2 hero and knows all of his faults and weaknesses. So, this is definitely going to help out with that. So it is at this current point that Dabi would actually be restrained and Deku would just be like, Now I'm going to take you guys in, as he would then grab Katsky and take her to the hospital. A hospital that's actually pretty nearby. Now this one Deku would return in about 1 second, as All For One would be standing there, as he's just asking if he did this, as he would then say, "Silence, I know it was you." As Deku would say, "Huh? Who the hell are you?" As All For One would then say, I'm All For One," as he would then reveal to Deku who he is and who that was. Dabi's Endeavor's son. As Deku would just look at him and say, "What? No? I already know Endeavor's son. You're lying. Shoto Todoroki." As All For One would be like, "No. So that's where you're wrong." As Deku would just listen to All For One as he says what he has to say, and after hearing this, Deku would realize that this stuff cannot get out to the public. If it does, it'll leave a huge stain on the Hero Society. They may not be able to get back from it. As Deku would rush at All For One, as All For One would activate a shield quirk, or a force field quirk, that Deku would try to penetrate. He would try punching straight through it, as it just wouldn't budge. This one All For One would shoot long-range attacks at Deku that don't hit, but it's going to be a battle of endurance. Whether All For One's shield breaks, or Deku has the sufficient stamina to take him down. The battle would last for about 20 minutes, and by this time, half of the city would have been destroyed. All For One would have used that massive attack, and by this time, All Might would have gotten word of things, but he would know that Deku's there, so he would think that he just might be able to do it. I mean, he's already stronger than him, so he would just get in Deku's way, as he would then rush at Deku, hoping that he doesn't have to get in the way and that he's not late. He can make it in time and save him. As All Might would then blitz on over there, as Deku would be fighting against All For One. It's at this point that Deku has a spark of electricity that had never ran through his eyes before. This one, the lightning would turn into clear white lightning, just pure white. As Deku would then phase straight in through the shield. The reason that he couldn't do that before was because his molecules would just get disturbed anytime that he would try to, but for some reason, he blitzed right in there, right in front of All For One, as he's then staring at him. As Deku would then punch All For One's mask, breaking it, as he would then hold All For One's face and break his neck. This one, All For One would die right there, as Deku would just say that he had gone a little bit too far, as All Might would then take the credit for killing All For One, as he would actually arrive right on time. The police helicopters wouldn't have even been able to, arrive, since the battle had happened in a different way than in canon. This being said, All Might would take the credit, and he would still have some sort of his prime left, I guess you could say. So this is definitely going to help them out later. This is when all the kids essentially return back to school, and Katsky would actually be right back to full health. Recovery Girl would have definitely helped her out with that little injury that she had. And as for Dabi, Dabi, he would essentially be confronted by his mother, his brother, and the Todoroki family. They would have a big talk over things, and Dabi would be too far gone. He's beyond saving. They would all realize this and get a little saddened. I mean, he may have been bad, but the reasons that he was doing it was he was doing something that all of them had wanted to do. I mean, it's not like he had only done that to him. He had mistreated all of them. As Dabi would then smile and ask them all if they were willing to help him escape and get that revenge that they all deserved. For one, Endeavor should not be let loose. He's using us. He used us to fulfill his selfish desires. He used you, Todoroki. He used you to try to do what I could not. He saw that I was weak, and he tried to create another one of me, just to have you do what he couldn't have me do. That son of a bitch is more of a villain than I could ever be. So he says, I would never harm my own family. But he did it without a second thought. They would just have a huge talk about that, and after a while, Dabi was just left. He couldn't be saved. He was just too far gone. And as for the situation with Katsky, she's healed, and now we're going to go ahead and jump on into the provisional license exams. This would essentially go to canon, except with the major difference being that Todoroki and Bakugo would actually end up passing. Oh my god, I need to stop that. Todoroki and Katsky would end up passing. I'm sorry, guys. So, Todoroki and Katsky would end up passing, except Only difference being this time is that when that Izuku Midoriya clone or that kid with the earthquake quirk would come in and say hi, and he would say hi to Katsky, he'd be a little too friendly to her, as Deku would have blitz in front of him and have the white lightning streaks just blitz in front of him as he would sensei, what are you trying to do? As, you know, he would say, oh, don't worry, man. Don't get jealous. I'm just trying to say hi. As Deku would flick him, as, you know, the electricity would go straight through his body, shocking him and weakening him for the thing. So this time, that kid's actually going to end up failing because Deku rendered him pretty much useless during the test. So that earthquake never happens. So, you know, in terms of this, Deku ends up bodying Gang Orca, and Gang Orca is just ultimately stunned. He's like, what the hell? This kid, he took me out in like 2 seconds. What the heck? That's insane. As, you know, Deku would essentially go through the provisional license exams. In terms of, you know, the other stuff, well, that actually wouldn't end up happening. That wouldn't end up happening, and we wouldn't actually end up getting, as essentially the provisional license is, I mean, it's kind of one of my least favorite arcs to cover. I mean, it's pretty damn lame. There's no real, like, tension or anything. So, yeah, that being said, they all return to class. Now, this is when the class actually gets introduced to the big three. When this happens, Mirio actually takes a big liking towards Deku and Katsky, seeing that she's the successor of One For All. And when the battle starts, Katsky is actually able to dodge that move that Deku wasn't even able to dodge in the original canon. She actually saw that coming. I mean, she had fought against Gran Torino, who does stuff kind of like that. She had gotten her ass kicked for like a week straight, so she knows what that's like. As she would not dodge it, and she would let it come. As she would then dodge the gut punch and twist his arm, almost breaking it, as she would then hold him down. But Mirio would then phase through that. And she would then get taken down swiftly right after by one of Mirio's hard punches to the back of the head. Seeing this got Deku mad, and he would blitz Mirio before he could even, you know, turn intangible. He would take down Mirio in a quick, swift motion, as Mirio would then rub his head, as he was flung into a wall before he could even react. At this point, Deku is light speed, and you guys may be wondering, why the hell is his lightning white now? Like, what the heck is going on? Like, what is going on? Well, I kind of like white lightning. That just sounds dope. Like, honestly, come on. Imagine like a white flash just boom, 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 just going around like smashing everybody. Oh, and also, Deku's costume design would actually change to the one of the thumbnail by this point. I definitely forgot to mention that. He would have grown up a little bit after all of these experiences, and now his name is not actually going to be Kid Flash no more. After this, he's actually going to be changing into Flash. So, you know, they get into the overhaul arc. Mirio introduces Deku to Night Eye, and Deku would actually be able to make Night Eye laugh. This time, he actually did something kind of funny, and Night Eye actually found it a little humorous. You know, nothing crazy. He just chuckled, as Deku would just smile, thinking that, you know, that's enough. As Night Eye would actually tell Deku that if he wants to be here, he has to take the stamp. As in a flash, pun. As in a flash, Deku would proceed to take the stamp. As Night Eye was like, what? As he would then look towards the future and say, try it again. He'd say, I wasn't ready. As Deku would then proceed to take it again. No problems, no nothing. As Night Eye would say, no matter what I did, you were always going to take it. That was never going to change. Interesting. You seem to have a lot of promise, boy. As Deku would then be taken out to the little, you know, patrolling by Mirio. And this time, when Eri comes running in and he sees Overhaul, Mirio looked towards Deku and shakes his head. No, leave him. You're going to ruin the entire operation. We have to bust the entire Yakuza family, not just him. As Deku would then feel Eri's terror. And he would then think, if I fail this little girl, then I don't deserve to be called the hero. Take the girl and get out of here. I'll take him down. As Overhaul would take off his gloves, as he would then rush at Deku and come in and kill him. But before that, he'd literally be in a jail cell. As Overhaul would just be like, what the? With some quirk dampening cuffs. As Overhaul would just be like, what the hell? As that situation is taken care of in a flash. And then we got the gentle stuff, but everybody doesn't really care about that, honestly. I mean, what do you guys expect? Gentle versus like Midoriya with like 10% or like 20, I'm pretty sure it was taken out pretty easily. Take that against Flash, I mean Kid Flash, and you got a massacre. So Deku would massacre Gentle Criminal. And this is where this story is going to be wrapping up, boys. I genuinely hope you guys enjoyed the run. In terms of Deku's kid with Katsky and a little bit more studying, you know, they definitely studied a lot more down the line. And this time, they didn't actually end up making any mistakes. The protection never actually ended up breaking this time. So they were actually quite fine. And later on, they actually ended up having a kid, name being Barry Midoriya. He also inherited his father's quirk. And that is where we're going to be leaving this story off.
Now, wasn't that a throwback? It has been literally probably a year since I made that video, and it is just insane to see the changes with my voice, the quality of my videos, and everything that has come in between. It is so crazy to think that a while ago, I was literally recording in my mom's car with the air conditioner on, and when it was cold, I was freezing. When it was hot, I was dying of a heat stroke recording videos for you guys. And to see, now I have a PC setup, and now all my stories have gotten so much better since then. It's just such a huge feeling of accomplishment for me. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please make sure to go down below, smash the like button, as well as go rewatch some of my older series, seeing as I'm pretty sure many of you guys are not giving those series the love that they deserve. That being said though, guys, it has been your boy Zether. I love each and every single one of you guys, and I am out. Peace.